In the last month we've been working mainly on converting wedges of timber from the cleaved log into planks. So as you can hear, it's quite noisy, and it involves taking these wedges of timber that are still too heavy to lift manually. We're having to lift them with the hydraulic hoists, and reducing them by notching them out and then taking them down to 1 inch thick. And we've got 2 of those set up dry fitted on the ship for the ends of the garboard strakes, and the rest that we're converting at the moment will become again part of the garboard strake of the ship.
To season timber of this size would take a long time. They would have just chopped the trees down in the wood and probably made the planks in the wood rather than dragging tree trunks a long distance. Much easier to split it down and take the smaller bits of wood to where they want to work them. Only probably it'd be better if we started when we were 22 and not 72. It's a lot of work, yeah. So that, very green, 1/4 inch, and that's all we're taking off. You just keep working along. It's actually quite quick.
This is a plank I've been working on for the last probably 6 days. 6 full days. And I'm on the final cut. This is the final cut. This is the finished cut. So I've already done the rough cut here. And this is to get it flat as the other side. The other side has already been made flat. Now this side has to be parallel to this side. So all I'm doing now is just knocking off the bumps by using the light to show them to me, and I just check it with a flat piece of wood to make sure it's flat. So this side's already flat, now this side is flat, and now it's parallel. These 2 sides are now parallel. So now we got a plank we can use.
So this here is a mock-up of the midsection of the ship, and these planks here have been sawn from the log. They've been sawn in a way that's called through and through. So you take a log and you literally slice it into sections, and those sections become the planks. Now the problem with sawing, particularly if you're sawing through and through, is the lay and the run of the grain. We've got here the grain running in this sort of half-moon, semicircular shape. And what that means is that when the plank dries out, it has a natural kind of inclination to shrink into a kind of bowed shape. And also, it becomes very weak at this top area of the grain here. So using planks that are sawn through and through on a boat that you're going to put in the water can often cause you problems, actually particularly with oak. On the other hand, by using cleaved wood, it can sort of help to get rid of that problem. Perhaps by looking at one of these logs, the end of one of these logs, we can sort of show that. So when we're cleaving a log, the idea is that you're cutting it almost like kind of slices of a cake. So you'd cut it in half like that, or you cleave it in half like that. You cleave it like that, you cleave it like that. And what you end up with is a kind of wedge shape. So we've got this lighter area here, which is called the sapwood. And sapwood's really not very useful at all because it rots very easily. It's easily attacked by worm, and it's just not structurally very sound. Similarly, this wood here in the centre of the log is when the tree was very, very young, and so it tends not to be very strong. It's called the pith. So this kind of area here you wouldn't really be using. So the useful, usable area runs around like this. And when the log has been cleaved into its eighths and those have been cut away, you then end up with that kind of wedge shape which forms the sort of structure of your plank. So when you're sawing timber, you still wouldn't be able to use this area here, and you still wouldn't be able to use this area here. So although it might appear as though cleaving a log and putting it into planks might be very wasteful, in actual fact, if you take into account the sapwood and the losing of the pith in this way, really cleaving a plank is not a lot more wasteful than it would be if it was being sawn through and through. And as we've just seen, what you end up with structurally is much stronger because you're following the grain of the wood. You're, if you like, working with the wood. What we end up with is much stronger than if we were using sawn planks.
What we have here is our Anglo-Saxon clamp, which has been designed by one of our volunteers, looking at the sort of tools that would have been used at the time, looking at things like the Bayer tapestry, to see what sort of tools would have been used at the time. Because we have to clamp two pieces of wood together when we do the planking, and actually modern clamps don't seem to give us what we need, because you need quite a long reach. So you imagine that you're clamping two planks together here, so you need quite a long reach here. And so how this works is we kind of put a wedge in here, and then you're able to knock that wedge in to keep this tight. And it's really quite effective and gives you a very long reach on where you're clamping to. A trunnel is a traditional way where we can join two pieces of wood together, and we're going to use it in the ship for joining frames to the planking and various other things. So it starts off as a piece of wood like this, which is then shaped to the size of the hole that you're going to fit it to, and then split into two parts. So you end up with a piece like this. You would then fit that to the size, the correct size for the hole that you're going to use, and then knock that through the two pieces of wood, as you can see here. You then, in order to secure it from the other side, would knock in a wedge into the middle of that trunnel, and that kind of expands the wood and gives you a secure joint, and then you can cut off the end. You can see on this piece here more clearly what's happened. This is your two pieces of wood that have been joined, it's your trunnel, and this is your wedge that has then been inserted that opens the end of the trunnel to secure the two pieces of wood together.
Yeah, well, I'm using a shave horse, which is a very ancient workbench, really, I suppose. The main part of it is this lever system here, and it enables you very quickly to shave down any type of wood and move it around very quickly. So you can just do a bit here and then turn it over, so you can get really any shape you like. I'm using a draw knife, which is
again, a very ancient form of tool. It's basically a large two-handled chisel, and you can adjust the depth of the cut simply by moving your wrist like that. So I can take very small pieces off, but I can also cut this in half with one stroke of this if I dig down. So it's very versatile, very quick.
This is a test piece of the type of carving we might use on the stem and stern post of the ship. It's a typical Anglo-Saxon carving. This intertwined dragons and such like. It's very popular of that style that's found on a lot of the Anglo-Saxon carvings that are found, and even on the Sutton helmet.
This is a spoon alga. It's used for drilling holes. You can see this end of it has been sharpened. It's quite an effective tool. How it works is you center the alga on where you need to drill the hole, and you twist to the right to drill it, and you can actually apply quite a lot of pressure, and you have a piece here which you can rest on your chest, and then you can actually get your body weight on top to turn it and to apply the pressure to it.
The story with the underloute is long and complicated. It was carved entirely by axe out of a full log, a whole log. And we set it up at the first fastening ceremony in the autumn, and then had to hollow the inside of it out. And it was only when we hollowed the inside of it out that we actually breached the pith of the log, so the very centre of the log. And that pith would normally run straight along the very centre of the log. This one waved all over the place. And as the underloute dried, it split out of the side, and then it gives us a problem, because whilst we could probably repair it, there's always a doubt there then if it would let go and leak while we're at sea. So it was after a lot of consultation, both with external professionals and internally with the trustees, we decided it was better to replace it now, although that will cause delay in the build. Well, we logged the hours on building the original one, and it actually cost us 400 hours of time, plus the time in going to find the log in the first place, and then there were transport costs on top of that. So it's quite a major issue, really. I'm still looking for a new section to replace it, and I know where to look. It's just getting the time on top of everything else, and this is an indication of some of the delays that it will cause. Whereas for the Saxons, they would, I'm sure, have had a store of half a dozen or so on one side that they'd chopped previously, and they got ready for all sorts of eventualities, or even for another ship. Well, the next stage is to fit and nail up the first sections of planking. So for the two end garboard sections that we've got, they're more or less ready to be fitted to the final curve that we need, and then can be nailed up. But we can't do that final fitting until the new underloute is in place.
I guess it's actually, I enjoy the day-to-day of the boat building, and I'm not actually sure I want it to finish. It's kind of quite nice having this project which has such a long duration that you are forced to work at a slow pace, and in our busy world that we live in and everything's so rushed, it's actually quite nice to have something where you know it's going to take a period of time and you can't actually do it any quicker. So I'm quite happy to just enjoy the process of the build rather than thinking about what happens next. And yes, it'll be very exciting when we launch it and we do the tour around England, but actually just to enjoy the moment is something I'm really taking from the build at the moment.